Hey, what's up everybody? Jake here and welcome to the hobby. It looks like the Scarlet and Violet era is finally taking off. There's a bunch of really good sets inside of this era that people are starting to appreciate, and I have been a staunch defender of Scarlet and Violet for a while. Don't get me wrong, I have my gripes with it. I have my critiques. There's definitely things about Scarlet and Violet that I would say I'm not a huge fan of. Some stuff like them nerfing the pull rates on certain sets. Some of these sets have been really large, a bit too large. So I do have my critiques of Scarlet and Violet, but it hasn't been a bad era for me personally. The illustration rares have been amazing. I guess some people just don't remember things like the XY era or the Sun and Moon era when we really didn't get a ton of really cool cards, and most sets had one or two decent cards, but there wasn't a ton of stuff there to collect. But Scarlet and Violet has been really strong ever since the start. We get illustration rares inside of every single set, and there's been a bunch of really decent chase cards. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole because I noticed that Twilight Masquerade booster boxes are starting to reach $175 a booster box, which is insane for a brand new sealed product. Twilight Masquerade is like 3 or 4 months old at the max, and booster boxes are going for above Pokemon Center prices. Buying a sealed booster box of Twilight Masquerade from the Pokemon Center for full retail price is actually considered a reasonable deal right now, which is kind of blowing my mind. So I went down a rabbit hole and I looked at all the different cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. I looked at all of the different prices, and I'm really shocked because there's actually a ton of really nice, valuable chase cards from this era, and a lot of them are getting very expensive. And I pretty much took a step back, reviewed the top 50 most expensive cards, and I want to share with you guys the top 10 most expensive cards from the Scarlet and Violet era, because I think it says a lot about this era and where things are going, because realistically, the next 5 sets, the next 5 final sets from the Scarlet and Violet era, it might be 6 if they have one more special set. And honestly, these sets are going to be really bonkers because we know they're coming down the pipeline and they're probably going to be the best sets from the Scarlet and Violet era. And the ones we've had already aren't looking so shabby either. So let's talk about some of those. I got myself the list of the top 50 most expensive Pokemon cards from the Scarlet and Violet era right here. We're really just going to focus in on the top 10 most expensive ones. But before we get started, I would like to thank Drip for sponsoring today's video. Drip has been a longtime sponsor of our channel, and I am hosting a very spooky Boxtober weekend with Drip later, so definitely check it out. We are hosting a really awesome giveaway. Drip is sending me a very spooky mystery box full of sealed Pokemon card products, vintage Pokemon cards, graded Pokemon cards, and all kinds of what I'm told are some scary surprises inside of the box. So I'm really excited to see what's inside of my mystery box. Everything inside of the box is going to be given away. So whatever we get, regardless of its value, its price, whatever it is, we are giving it all away. So definitely check out my live stream. We are going to make it extra spooky and try to give away as much as we possibly can. If you sign up to Drip, they are giving you an immediate $10 to $250 in free credit immediately added to your account. Some people get $10, some people get $20, and a very select few might get $250 in free credit. So sign up today, see how much free credit you get added to your account, and spend it on some really awesome free Pokemon cards. And check out my live stream where we open up a super spooky mystery box and give away all the contents inside of that as well. Definitely check it out, it'll be a ton of fun. All right, starting off the list in 10th place, we got ourselves the Raging Bolt EX from Temporal Forces, currently going for $72.17. It is the most expensive card from Temporal Forces, so it barely made it onto the list. There are no other really like crazy expensive cards from Temporal Forces. There are some decent ones like Walking Wake isn't too bad, but the Raging Bolt is the most expensive one. Some sets didn't even have a single card make it into the top 10, which is not surprising to me. Some sets that I can think of that doesn't have a card in the top 10 are Obsidian Flames and Scarlet and Violet Base. Neither of those sets had any super expensive cards, but just being on the list is really nice. Next up on the list in 9th place, we got ourselves the Carmine Special Illustration Rare from Twilight Masquerade. It is currently going for $74.65. At a certain point, I think the Carmine was going for upwards of $100. So it's actually gone down a little bit in price. And who knows, maybe in 4 months, it's not going to be even on this list. Probably not the most top 10 most expensive card from Scarlet Violet the whole entire era, just because we know some other big sets are coming out, and those sets will have big chase cards as well, but it's on the list right now, so we got ourselves a special illustration rare on the list. In 8th place, we got ourselves the Blastoise EX from 151, currently going for $78.99. Another really solid card. This card, a couple of months ago, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, would probably not even be on this list. It was probably going for around $40 to $50 at a certain point, but it's kind of skyrocketed in value as a lot of the cards from 151 has started appreciating in value as people are anticipating that there won't be a lot of restocks of this set any time in the near future. So people are saying this is the last hurrah from 151. People want to complete their collection. A lot of people are collecting the master set of 151. It's kind of an easy set to master collect. It makes a lot of sense. So it's on the list. And in the very next spot, we got ourselves the Venusaur EX from 151. These two cards are almost interchangeable. Right now on TCG Player, it's saying that the Venusaur EX is going for $79.57, so like 50 cents more expensive than the Blastoise, but these two cards are honestly interchangeable in their spot. Next up, we got ourselves our very first $100 plus card, and that is the Terapagos EX from Stellar Crown. Definitely the most expensive chase card from Stellar Crown. That shouldn't surprise anyone. It was clearly the flagship card from the set. It's kind of interesting because if it was an even more popular Pokemon, because obviously the Terapagos is cool, but it's not the most popular Pokemon because it's just too new. I don't think it's really considered comparable to some of the OGs, but just being on this list is really impressive. The Terapagos is currently going for $104.38. Very, very respectable. Making it into 5th place, we got ourselves the Charizard EX from Paldean Fates. The Charizard EX, the shiny, super gaudy Charizard from Paldean Fates, is currently going for $106.76. I think a lot of people underestimated Paldean Fates as well. You know, it's considered a pretty weak set because people compare it to Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates obviously had Charizard, shiny Umbreon, shiny Gregninja. It just had a bunch of shiny nostalgic Pokemon, and Paldean Fates had shiny Pokemon in it, but less so and less nostalgic one. It really focused on shiny versions of Paldean Pokemon, and that kind of threw some people off because they really wanted to focus more on the OG. I didn't really mind Paldean Fates, so I'm happy to see it on the list. And the next one up is honestly one that has been sneaking up in terms of value as well, and that is the Mew EX from Paldean Fates as well. This card is currently going for $119 in ungraded copies. Really solid price point. This card has been going up quite a bit. It's known as the Bubble Mew, and any card with a good nickname is slowly going up in value. And I do like the art. It's very iconic. So if you want to pick something up, picking this card up from Paldean Fates makes total sense because you could crack open 100 booster packs of Paldean Fates and you won't find this card. Currently going for $120 is very, very respectable. All right, we are now making it onto the big chunky cards because these are the top 3 cards. And making it onto the podium, we have ourselves the only illustration rare, regular illustration rare in the top 10. And it's a blockbuster, and that is the Magikarp illustration rare from Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved is actually getting kind of to be an expensive set too, with Paldea Evolved booster boxes slowly climbing up in value. I think a Paldea Evolved booster box is now going for like $140 to $145. It's getting a little bit more scarce. It's a very chunky set, tons of cards inside of it. The odds of you pulling a Magikarp illustration rare is incredibly low just because of the amount of illustration rares inside of the actual set. It's just a massive set. So that's part of the reason why the Magikarp illustration rare is so incredibly expensive. It's also a super cool looking card. It is currently going for $122.60 for the ungraded copies, which is astronomical. If you look at the PSA 10 copies, those are even more insane. The Magikarp illustration rare in a 10 is rivaling just so many big chase cards out there. It is a big chunky boy, so don't scoff at this Magikarp. It can keep going for quite a while just because of how incredibly hard it is to find one and to get it in a 10. So it's one of those reasons why it's so incredibly expensive. And in second place, we got ourselves the Charizard EX from 151, also known as the Sunzard. This card might not have been in the top 3 a couple of weeks ago. It might have been like the Bubble Mew in the top 3, because this Charizard EX is now currently going for $201.23. It's currently right over $200 in terms of a price point, a very expensive card from the Scarlet and Violet era. I think a couple of weeks ago it was going for like $100, so who knows? It's pretty wild, but obviously 151 really appreciating value. Same with a bunch of other Scarlet and Violet era sets. And if you haven't guessed it already, in first place we got ourselves the Rainbow Gregninja EX from Twilight Masquerade. This card is currently going for $305.61. I know when this card was at around $150 to $200 price point, there was a ton of finger pointing of market manipulation, but it's honestly a super cool card. I think it was super obvious that it's going to be the top chase card from Twilight Masquerade. I personally think it's still overpriced. I don't think this card should be a $300 card, but that's my personal opinion. The market doesn't have to agree with me. Some people seem to think like I speak for the market. I don't. This is just me saying I think the card is overpriced. If you have it inside of your collection, awesome, congratulations. You got a super awesome chase card. In fact, you have the most expensive chase card from the Scarlet and Violet era. And obviously a ton of people want it. Is it going to be the Moonbreon of this era? I know a lot of people are trying to push the 151 Charizard to become the next Moonbreon, which is why part of its price is going up. There again is that whisper of market manipulation. I really disagree with that. I think the market is way too big for a couple of players to really manipulate it. Obviously, there's always some chance of that, but the risk is so incredibly high. Honestly, if someone buys 50, 100 copies of Charizard EX, it still will not make a dent in the market. There's just so many copies of these cards out there. I mean, there's like 15,000 PSA 10 Umbreon. There's just that many people that are excited to pick up some of these cards. So I do think the Gregninja EX price is priced in. People do actually love this card, whether I agree with them or disagree with them, because I think it's a gorgeous card, and I'm happy to see that it's this expensive, because I've been talking about how underrated the Scarlet and Violet era is. These are the top 10 most expensive cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. Some of the booster boxes are starting to get pretty expensive. Do not get FOMO. This is not a buy every card now kind of video, because honestly, these sets are very, very new. I know people are worried about restocks and reprints, but they're still ongoing. We haven't had a scarce Pokemon card market in a long time. If you really want a booster box of any modern Scarlet and Violet era set, you can find them in stores. They are there and available in Walmart, Target, your local card shop, on the Pokemon Center. Sometimes the Pokemon Center's retail price might actually be the best deal, but you can find these booster packs in just about a wide variety of products right now. I do know that a Twilight Masquerade booster box is going for $175, but you can find Twilight Masquerade booster packs in a variety of just miscellaneous EX collection boxes that are going for clearance level prices. So don't ignore those either, as you can find some fantastic deals out there. So this has been the top 10 most expensive Pokemon cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. Let me know what your thoughts are. There are a bunch of other cards that didn't make it onto this list that I thought would make it onto the list. One that is really surprising is the Iono Special Illustration Rare from Paldea Evolved. This particular card used to cost like $100, so it's tanked quite a bit in price. It's currently going for right around $55. So I was surprised to see that dropping off from the list. I see some surprising other cards that dropped off from the list. And of course, some cards are now rising stars, and we'll see more of those with new sets coming out. So let me know what your thoughts are. Are you thinking that the Scarlet and Violet era is probably gonna appreciate quite well in the future once people start putting their nostalgia goggles through some of these sets in the future? So let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you guys next time.